Good evening, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. What's going on with the light tonight? There's a lot of Celtic news, a lot of negativity, as you would expect tonight. A lot of people talking about Celtic that should really know better, with Neil Lennon already had his say about the Celtic Fans Collective, with Chris Sutton calling the Celtic Fans Collective idiots for disruption of the field of play. Paul Lambert, that favourite midfield player of mine, Paul Lambert has slammed the ongoing fan protest against the board, suggesting that actions are doing more harm than good and could be contributing to the team's recent struggles on the pitch. Lambert, who at his time at Celtic, was a fantastic player, believes that the off-field tensions could be affecting the players, something that we spoke about last night. Lambert acknowledges the fact that the fans have a right to voice concerns over the impact of the board, and he does go on to say that, look, creating unnecessary distractions for the players, i.e. throwing stuff onto the pitch and stopping it, the game isn't the best. He thinks that it's having a negative effect on everything. The fans have their reasons for doing it, and sometimes it's easy to behind that as players, but when you step onto the field, should be in your makeup to be able to you can't influence things that are getting chucked onto the pitch. You need to concentrate on winning games, says Paul Lambert. It's very unlikely that Celtic fans that usually are so loyal to the club and the team, I think what's happening with players getting affected, it could a little erode any good stuff that's going on behind the scenes. It should all be about getting the job done, and whatever happens off the field happens. So is it having a detrimental effect to the players? It's never going to stop this, is it? And Celtic have been linked with Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson, how do you feel about that one? The 31-year-old is out of contract at Liverpool this summer. 31. Remember, Callum McGregor's 32. And a lot of people are saying that Callum McGregor is past it. Is Andy Robertson the lifelong Celtic fan? Is Andy Robertson past it? And would you take Andy Robertson to Celtic? I don't think so, to be honest. Yes, we are shite. Cheers, da. Anyway, on a side note, did anyone watch the Barcelona game? Jesus, they're on fire. I was in a tapas bar eating some tapas watching it. They are frightening. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Barcelona. We could talk about them all night, but that's KT looks slow. If KT's slow, what do you think about Andy Robertson? And Chilwell says that Andy Robertson's well past it. I think he's well past it. Andy Robertson's past it. The board should be more loyal to the fans. I'd take Andy free for a year. Of course you would, Michelle. Hi Baz, now you Celtic family. Jimmy the Jock is in the house, says James Black. Cheers, that. Love you too. Texting's easier than going on YouTube, just saying. But anyway, another Celtic news this evening. It's is the talk. I mean, Chris Sutton's now talking about it. There's a lot of people talking about, get Ange Postecoglou back. I don't think it's the right answer. I think if we went backwards with the current manager, if we went backwards with the current manager and Brendan Rodgers, is going back to Ange Postecoglou just not going backwards again? I mean, what do we expect to achieve with that? 2 years now not playing for Liverpool. Yeah, and there's a site now saying that he's now been linked with Celtic and he could come to Celtic due to the fact, it has to be said, that Kieran Tierney's not playing that great. Yeah, so let's replace him with someone older that's past it, playing for Liverpool. I think his best days. I don't want Andy Robertson coming up at the. I mean, I thought we'd got past that. It's not going to happen. maybe if Brendan Rodgers stays, it may happen, but I doubt it, because we've got a player on loan to back up for Kieran Tierney. Bringing in Andy Robertson, don't know him and Kieran Tierney play the same position. It's just, I mean, what use is it going to be? I just don't see it at all. I don't see any use in it. Anyway, talking about, there's quite a lot of people within the Scottish media, as you would expect, now talking about the current Celtic manager leaving his job. Even though he said he's not going to leave within the next 7 or 8 months, whenever it is, it's not even 7 or 8 months to the end of the season now, is it? He said that he doesn't want to leave before the end of the season. He's came out and said in public, the manager has said in public that he left early before and it didn't go down too well. So why would he leave again? Why would he leave again? Is it disrespectful for so many people in the media? And Andy and John McGinn free for a year. You'd be as well get your Uncle Bob in goals then, Michelle. Not sure if we can afford Tierney on 50 grand a week plus Robertson's wages. I think that we can, because we've got rid of so many players that we've reduced the wage bill. Bobo Glint manager for me, if Rodgers leaves on a high. Is it there's the poll. There's the poll question. Right, we're only in October. Brendan Rodgers is here. Say the results all go his way, right? Should we really be talking about a new manager just now? Yes or no in the comments. I don't think that we should do. There's no need to be talking about a new manager, even if he's leaving at the end of the season. Let the backroom, even if the backroom staff are doing their due diligence on a potential manager for next season, and say he's having an absolutely blinder of a season at the moment, and say he had a blinder of a season at the last season, but say it gets to Christmas and he doesn't win a game between Christmas and the start of the new season, the end of the season. Say he gets absolutely mauled at the current club, whoever it may be. Is that enough evidence to then take that person on as manager? I don't think so. I think that you have to be looking at potential managers, yes, but is it good for the fans to be talking about it? Is it disrespectful to Brendan Rodgers? We didn't start this nonsense with Ronny Deila in October. It was well after Christmas that we started talking about Ronny Deila, and we wanted, it got to almost Easter. I'm sure it was just before Easter that Ronny Deila come out and said, I'm not going to be here next season. Do you know, we're just at the October holidays. Is it even the October school holidays yet back home? Should we really be talking about a new manager just now? 54% say yes, 46% say no. It's interesting because there's so many permutations on what people want as change, and a lot of people obviously want rid of Brendan Rodgers. Now I think that would be detrimental to the season going forward. Some people are already thrown in the towel as far as this season's went. I still think that Celtic can win a treble. I think that Celtic can still win a treble. I still think that Brendan Rodgers can go out on a high. And yes, I think it's too early to talk about, unless results change. It's a results-driven game. If we get absolutely hammered Thursday night. I've just watched Barcelona score goals for fun. Such a youthful team Barcelona's got, and the play with such style. And you're thinking, why can't we play like that? What is going wrong at Celtic to go for the heights of the way that we played towards the latter stages of the Champions League this calendar year? It's not as if it was last year. We're just talking about this calendar year. the way that we played, the enthusiasm that the players had, everything. But anyway, Paul Baird says, get them gone now. The whole team is stale, manager included. Just my opinion. Paul Baird says, get them gone now. The players should be professional enough to win games. Yeah, they know. Baz is deluded. Celtic on Xbox, you mean? Celtic on Xbox. But then again, Green for Goal wants Sean Maloney as manager, so that's all we need to say about that, isn't it? He's crawled out for Sean Maloney before, isn't he? Anyway, because they have more money and better players. They've got a better youth system, that's what it is. Jamal was stunning. Jamal is just, he's out of this world. I'm not concerned about the treble right now. Securing the title is number one focus. Let's Hearts get second. A cup deny them any chance of Champions League money. Jamal to start charging money for his autograph. He's an utter wanker. There's no chance we'll be successful this season if Brendan Rodgers stays. He'll continue to play his pals. We'll continue to go backwards. Would love to be wrong, but I can't say anything to give hope, says Lorne. I think that is an interesting one, where Brendan Rodgers did come out and, I mean, he said, you're saying playing his pals. Are you saying that Yang is his pal? Because I think that the only reason that Yang got played is because we had no one fit in the position. Let's be honest. I mean, when you're without two fantastic players in Diaz Maeda and Jota out injured, that's going to affect any team. I mean, that would affect Ange Postecoglou's team. I don't see how Ange can make this team any better. And I think it's totally disrespectful to the manager to talk about sacking him when we've only lost one game. This season. And then Paul Lambert, he did go on to say, he says, like the former captain, criticised the mindset more than the message. He believes that players must block out the noise and take charge of their own performances rather than be dragged into the external issues. He's also said, Paul Lambert, that look, the standards are slipping both off and on the field. Accountability is being lost in the confusion. While protests may continue, it's not an excuse, but the only way of the current state of Celtic is for Celtic to start winning and the fans to back the players. That's what Paul Lambert says. Tell me what you think about what Paul Lambert says. It's an interesting one that, I mean, I've said this before. I mean, Sutton is having a right good go at Rodgers and Celtic just now, but he also likes to lace his pockets with money for the Celtic fan base, and I think that it's, anyway, we move on. Martin O'Neill has been reacting to Derek McInnes stuff. I mean, for the fact that you've got an ex-player like Chris Sutton who knows that he has all the media attention, and for him to come out and say it would be great for Ange Postecoglou to come back, that's almost as good as giving Brendan Rodgers a vote of no confidence. It is all about, I mean, that for me, it definitely seems from the outside that there's a clique that are starting to gather around Brendan Rodgers that would rather see him gone now outside Celtic. And it's not just people from the boardroom. We're talking about people from the fan base, people from within the media. And I don't think that if we're meant to be this nice collective of a Celtic family, there seems to be an awful lot of agendas going on in all different directions, and I don't think that it's respectful for Chris Sutton to come out and say, yeah, he would be a good appointment. It's never happened before. Anyway, should we really be talking about a new manager just now? 114 votes, 54% say yes, 46% say no. Ange will never be back as manager, says Paul Baird, who also says that Brendan Rodgers needs to go now. Rodgers is gone stale. If Rodgers is gone stale, what does it say about Ange as a manager? 17th in the league, the Premier League. Okay, he won the Europa, but he's not been that good at all, has he? And I just think that going for Ange Postecoglou would be a massive, massive step backwards. Anyway, we've got a game on Thursday evening. The board has a responsibility for this. Of course it is, Edward. Nobody's denying it. Nobody's denying that the board have to take responsibility for the mess. I mean, the board have come out and said, yeah, there was things that we could have done better at the transfer window. We're talking about going forward, and the board won't get the sack. If the results go the wrong way and the players, say the players come out and there's a lot of nervousness within the players when they step onto the pitch. Celtic Park's a big place. And if you think about all the missiles that came onto the pitch from a small selection of Celtic fans behind the goals, it could be in the back of the players' minds, I'm not going anywhere near that fucking touchline. Fucking no chance. When you're that close to getting something thrown at you, it's not worth it. Then Brendan Rodgers is going, fucking get out to the wing. And the players are going, fuck off, you go out to the wing. With those bam pots at the side throwing stuff onto the pitches. That could be what's playing in the back of the player's head. Fuck son, these people aren't any better supporters than we are, says Jim Rigid. Paul, I was never part of that clique that wants Rodgers gone. I never wanted him back in the first place. Yeah. There seems to be I mean, you know me, I just tell it as it is, but there seems to be an old pals act going on within certain sections, and it's now turning. I think that it's if you can't get rid of the board, let's just get rid of Brendan Rodgers and we'll try again. And then when the next manager doesn't work, we'll try and get rid of the board. We're going down an awful big rabbit hole here. Rodgers said in the summer the board don't get sacked, managers do. Exactly, Michael. And that's my point. And this is maybe why that people like Chris Sutton follow the money trail. I always say, follow the money. But when you follow the money, you start to see the connections. When you see the connections, that's when you know that there's there could be things getting said in private. It's like, yeah, let's get rid of the manager and see where we go from there. You know, his time's up. Don't trust him. Why don't we give Shimada a run? Well, you need to see what he's doing in training. What is he doing in training that Johnny Kenny's doing better? Should be the question. It's not a case of why don't we give Shin Yamada a run. It's a case of why is Shin Yamada not better than Johnny Kenny? That's the way that I would see it. But a lot of fans are saying fucking Rodgers doesn't like Shin Yamada. I don't see it like that. I see it as Johnny Kenny is obviously doing something on a day-to-day basis that is outshining Shin Yamada. You can't tell me that a manager of Brendan Rodgers, Paddy Burns says Rodgers has to go. You can't tell me that a manager like Brendan Rodgers is purposely not playing a player, even if he's miles better than the player that's on the bench. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe that for a minute. And if it is the case, then Brendan Rodgers needs to go now. But it also means that there's other things going on. Why is he getting... He must be getting... He's either getting pressurised or he's doing it out of spite. So you're now saying that Brendan Rodgers is putting Johnny Kenny on the bench out of pure spite against someone at Celtic and Shin Yamada. I mean, that's an awfully... that's a... The Japanese left back is better than Kieran Tierney. No way, chill pill. The Japanese left back has played football for one season. Come on. He's played professional football. That's like me having 1 year's professional football and then going playing on the pitch. It's never going to happen. Never. Pies are crap, but go to Portaudry, no Angus beef. What? Stephen says, did you see 30 million signing, £30 million worth of signings on the bench? Do you know how many millions were on the bench for Barcelona tonight? I don't see Barcelona fans complaining. It's such a thing with Scottish football. And this is what keeps Scottish football small. It is. This is what keeps Scottish football in the doldrums. This is what keeps Scottish football living in the past. And this is why Scotland will never get to World Cups, and this is why Scotland never does any good on a European context. Because fans aren't prepared to have any type of money sitting on the bench. If we've got £5 million worth of players sitting on the bench, that's a shit bench. But it's only in Scotland do you pull out this narrative. There's £20 million sitting on the bench, son. Fucking hell. The fuck's going on? You know, it's only in Scotland that happens. And it just seems to be with Celtic fans. It's unbelievable. If you spend good money in January, I would love Brendan to stay another year. The Champions League goes. Ooh, that's kiddie. That's one. No. I'm being honest. I think that his time has come. I think that the differences between the board and Brendan Rodgers going forward are the damage is done. I think the damage is done between Brendan and the fans going forward. I think that as much as Celtic would love to continue with Brendan Rodgers, I don't think that it's going to happen now. And I think that even if Brendan won the treble, he would still walk. And I think that he should be. Sutton is 90% Celtic, 10% mainstream paycheck. No, he's not. He's probably about 50% Celtic paycheck. Look at how many Celtic nights he does, laces in his hands with Celtic money for Celtic fans, paying him every week. He probably makes more out of that than he does his Sky gig. I never wanted Rodgers back either. I wanted an elite manager. You're not going to get an elite manager now. Who's the next elite manager that you're going to bring in? There's the question for you. Who's the next? Tell me in the comments. Who is the next elite manager? And don't say Ange Postecoglou because he won one European Cup. He finished 17th in the English Premiership. He got sacked after 39 days. Going to finish that poll. 155 votes. Tell me in the comment section who would be your elite manager. Around about 25 years ago, we shelled out $5 million for Lennon, $6 million each for Hartson and Sutton. Celtic today won't adjust for inflation, far from it. Of course they won't. They have whilst the money that Celtic make now isn't far off comparison to what we made in the Champions League. Do you know, we're up at the 80, 90 million a season mark. 25 years later, our income hasn't changed that much. Even when we went into the Champions League and we got a good run in the Champions League, do you know, that took us to 125 million or something. We paid big money and big wages back then. Give Duff a season. Duff. Dr. Zebra. O'Neill. Bring back O'Neill. Always sceptical of managers returning, but hope Brendan can deliver as a result and turn his brand around. I think he still needs to leave at the end of the season. I think, look, I don't think that there's any disputing now that Brendan Rodgers will leave. I don't think that Brendan Rodgers will leave. Celtic says, Baz is a Rodgers fanboy. That's fine, but the reason teams like Dundee are beating us is because Rodgers has played the same predictable football since last year. The same shitey football that Ange Postecoglou played at the end of his 6 months. Do you know? People need to stop looking back. People looked back with everything that Brendan Rodgers did before. Ange Postecoglou's football was shite the last 6 months. Absolutely shite. Win on Thursday, win on Sunday, and Jimmy the Jock. Hell. That will change everything. And it always does with Celtic fans. I mean, the fan base is very fickle. Very, very. The Brighton manager who got St. Pauli up in the Bundesliga. What about Don Mackay? He was brought in and obviously the board did not like his methods. Yeah, he was chased out. Can we have superstar on the show one night, Scotty McClue? Is he still alive? Oh, Jesus. I'm looking back to fucking Sunday. I'm looking back to fucking Sunday, says Joe. I've no idea why he's fucking looking back to Sunday. No idea either. Brendan Rodgers won't be sacked anytime soon. Let's say where we are after Hearts game and the semi-final against the Buns. Yeah, exactly. And I think talking of him being sacked when we've only been beaten once, I think that it is a disrespectful. I don't think there's ever been a Celtic manager at any time that's been called to be sacked after losing one game. Tommy Burns lost one game all season and he never won the league. He drew games. He never lost a game. And no one ever talked about Tommy Burns getting the sack. No one. Not one single fan back then. Not one single fan. And when Fergus McCann did sack him, the fans weren't happy. It just shows you the difference from Tommy Burns being manager way back then in the 1990s to where the fan base are now. To have a manager, fans calling for the manager to be sacked for only losing one game this early on in the season. You don't just buy a player based on the transfer fee. That logic, Larsson would be on the bench every week. Said none. Sturm Graz and Hearts games are must win, and the Huns game, if we lose those 3 games, he needs to go. James, that would be any manager. That would be any manager, not just Brendan Rodgers. That should go into territory of a certain manager who got sacked after a dismal night in Paisley. Do you know? So let's hope it doesn't go down that road. Brendan does not deserve to be sacked at all. Just looked up Scotty McClue. Did some old cunt just make me feel old? I would rather he walked away just because the board have put him in this situation with a shitty squad. And he said we're going to be shit. I think the manager, he's always said that he wants the best for Celtic, and you've got to give him that. Do you know? And it would be easy for him to walk away. Some fans would say that he was being a shitbag. You've got two sides of the arguments here. You've got two sides of the arguments. You've got fans that would say, oh, fucking he walked away from us again. He's a prick. And then you've got fans that would say, quite right, I would do the same. And that split would be toxic. And Brendan Rodgers has already spoke about it and how toxic it was for him the last time. And he doesn't want that toxicity in his life again. He doesn't need it. He's at a stage of his life where he knows that, there's life outside football. He knows that he's going to get flack when things aren't going right. He knows that when players are playing shit, he's the one that's got to stand in front of the camera and give an explanation to why the players are shit. And if they're just not a good enough quality, and that's been what he's had to accept as a manager. How do we think that bringing in a new manager with the same players, the same level of players, that can you really see a new manager coming in and making Yang a superstar? Stevie Clark, Jesus. If we end up with Stevie Clark, James was there that night also. Mogga 4-0. Yeah, it was a long trip home that night, even though it was just back to Fife. It's going to be Maloney. Brendan never deserved to come back. If Brendan didn't deserve to come back, Paul, does Ange Postecoglou? Because who did worse out of the two managers? I mean, you could say leaving during the season's bad, but telling the owner and the chairman right before a cup final, nah, sorry lads. Do you remember that job offer? I'm going to go and speak to Spurs. Telling them before the cup final that you're going to go and speak to another club. And they know that's him, he's off. He's leaving. We need to find a new manager. Who's then better? To be fair, I don't think any of them. The Celtic team will come back and fight. Hope he's been 3 year. Brendan's stuck by contract. You know what the issues is? These days, no one is patient anymore. We seem to think we're entitled to everything. You lose a couple of games or a draw, and the world's ending. It needs to chill. It's true, Michelle. That is true. When you look at the fan base, and I go back to that year under Tommy Burns, drawing games, losing one league game all season, and then losing the league on a couple of points. Can't remember how many points it was now, but I mean, just losing the league and not getting beat is unbelievable. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, although we've been beaten once, statistically Celtic drop around about, they draw 3 or 4 games and they lose 1 or 2 throughout a successful season. Say we get all our defeats out the way just now, and Brendan Rodgers gets the team ticking along, changes the formation, gets us ticking along between now and the January window. And then the January window comes in. We've got Alistair Johnson back. We've got Austin Trusty back. Jota comes back February time. It ends up we've got a fantastic squad. And then we go on an unbeaten run. We go on an unbeaten run like we've done before after Christmas. How many times have we went, although we don't have the 2 week shutdown, but how many times in January have we went, boom, right, it's Celtic's time, and you go on an unbeaten run to the end of the season? What if we were to do that this year? All this chat that we're having right now would be forgotten about, and Brendan Rodgers would be some kind of superhero again. And isn't coming back if Maloney comes in, and then we're fucked. As of the year we played at Hampden, we lost 1 game. Yeah, this is true. And the fans didn't turn up for that because they fucking hated going to Hampden. I never turned a seat at Hampden. Fuck that. Yeah, well, we're shite then too. We've been struggling for ages. Football Life says, Baz, I've given up on this season. I've given up on a season in October when you're only 5 points behind. I don't think that I can remember us being 10 points behind Rangers and winning the league in October. We're 10 points behind Rangers in October. and we beat them to the league. Putting players under the bus is classic Rodgers. Not my fault. Only the best squad in Scotland. Do we have the best squad in Scotland though? Serious question. How many other clubs in Scotland have got players that don't want to be there and aren't putting in 110% for the club? I think the players are feeling Rodgers' negativity. But he's not the one that's doing training on a day-to-day basis. He only comes in and sort of, I'm not asking for the gaffer to be sacked, but change it up, formation players. Well, he's already said that. He's already said that he needs to change it to a 3-5-2, a 4-4-2, a 3-4-3, whatever. He already knows that he needs to change it. Ange won't be back. Move on. Paul, why do you hate him so much? Talking about Brendan Rodgers. Rodgers won't give a monkey if he's sacked because his bank is overflowing with bundles. But so is Ange. So why would Ange want to come back to this toxicity, this toxic atmosphere that's at Celtic? I mean, he's already went through the fact that in England that he thinks that the media don't rate him. Why is he going to come back to Scotland to then have the Scottish media berate him, saying that, well, why did you walk away from Celtic? Because he was fucking offered $7 million a year. You would do the same. I think that once you've been at Celtic, I think Rodgers came back and he was convinced. You've got to remember that Brendan Rodgers was taking a year off of football. He's planned on staying in Mallorca for a year and going, fucking, I'm not giving a shit. I don't need to work for a year. But it was Dermot Desmond that phoned him and tried to convince him to come back. And then he had the meeting with Callum McGregor, who was just outside Palma on holiday. Surprise, surprise. So I think that any manager coming into Celtic having to deal with an unhappy fan base, because if the manager gets sacked, people will still want rid of the board. If the manager leaves at the end of the season, people are still trying to get rid of the board. Who's going to come in when you've got that kind of toxic atmosphere within a club? You've got managers will be looking at it and go, do I need that shit in my life? Do I need that level of negativity? Because the first questions you're going to get asked is, how do you feel about the fans demonstrating against the board that have just hired you? What? I don't know anything about that shit, mate. I'm just in the door. Yeah, but the fans are wanting rid of the board members. The board members have just hired you. How do you feel about it? That's the way that the Scottish media goes. So right from day one, the Scottish media are grabbing onto something to try and force pressure onto the Celtic manager to try and make him to fail. That's the situation that we're in. And yes, ideally we would get rid of the people on the board before we go. Ideally what you want to happen is change at boardroom level before we get another manager. Because if we don't, we're then going to be going round in circles, and you'll get the Scottish media will jump all over any bit of weakness. And the first bit of weakness that they'll see is a new manager and the negativity with the fans at loggerheads with the PLC, the boards, call them whatever you want. And they'll grind away at that. Each week they'll grind away at it. Because if the fan protests are still going, say this happens, right? We lose a couple of games and Brendan Rodgers gets sacked. You've then got the Celtic board trying to convince a new manager to come in. Who comes in knowing that the fans are throwing stuff onto the pitch every week, that the fans are trying to stop a game, that the fans are protesting every single week and it's affecting the players that are there at the moment, and you're that far away from a transfer window that there's no real changes that can be made with inside the club, inside the playing staff, all you can do is try to change the coaching. But the negativity is still there. The pressure for the media. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the situation? How do you feel about that situation? You're jumping right into the fire. And there's not many managers that will want to take that on. And that is the issue that we have. So people like Chris Sutton saying, yep, get rid of him and bring back Ange. Ange has just been paid $7 million for 39 days work. Do you think he's coming back to Celtic for $3 million a year and all the bullshit that's going on? Not a chance. I'd be sitting on my Greek island sitting with big glass of champagne. SPFL was a hard sell for any manager with the role. They must have made him a larger offer. Worst comments for me was when Rodgers slated Inamura saying he's not good enough. Shocking statement towards a new signing. But how is it? He wasn't a Rodgers signing. He's only been a professional footballer for 1 year. We don't take kids out the academy and put them straight into the first team because they're not good enough. How can a player that's played football, he's never played it as a kid, maybe played it at uni, he's played professional for 1 year. You've got kids coming through academies that they've done this for the age of 8 and they can't walk into the first team, but because we buy some guy that's got a fancy name from fucking Japan, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon saying Rodgers is a prick, he doesn't know nothing about football, and this guy should be on the pitch in front of Tierney. That's crazy, chat. That's absolutely crazy, chat. The Americans have not got a clue. Hearts are the best team in Scotland. Celtic have shitloads of money. January, 5 good players, nothing to worry about, says Stephen. I think so. It could be as simple as that. Do you know, the Americans don't have a clue. Hearts, can they sustain it? Rodgers has thrown the entire squad under the Honda Civic. Wake up and smell the coffee. He's done. So what has the board done then? Because the board haven't thrown Brendan Rodgers under a Honda Civic. They've thrown Brendan Rodgers onto a racetrack with a 50cc moped with one hand tied behind his back. That's what the board have done. So anyway, let's screw the boys' confidence right away. Well done, Brendan. Great management. How confident am I in 2 wins this week? I'm not. I've said it publicly. I'm not. But I've got to try and be positive, because I think that if there's so much negative energy out there, and if you think that something's going to happen, and this is true for life, if you think that the worst is going to happen, the worst will happen. It's fact. You know, I'm not sitting where I am because I've always thought the worst is going to happen. You always think that the best is going to happen. You always think that you're going to get to that position that you want to. Because as soon as you start thinking, and even worse when a collective do it, when thousands of people doing it, all that negative energy up there just hoarding about, ready to dump itself on Celtic Park on Thursday night. The fans can feel that. The players can feel it from the fans. The players then feel that nervous energy coming off the terrace. And then that starts to decline even worse. Do you know? It really starts to decline even worse. Folk calling each other fads, childish, have smelly bums. I love a buzz, entitled to an opinion, why mock it? Yeah. No mocking anybody with an opinion. I get mocked off for my opinions. Don't care. Why slag Rodgers? He's just called out as he sees it. Get a grip, guys. Exactly. I love it. It's got me sussed. Cannot keep getting new signings and our manager refuses to give them any game time. It depends on the signings. Come on. And it depends who is in charge. Rodgers is partly to blame for this negativity, says Robert. See, if we don't win anything this year, do you think that would be enough for major change? Yes, but it won't be the major change that the fans want. It won't be new. Turn that light down. It's a bit fucking bright, isn't it? That's better. Jesus, how bright was that light? Fucking sweating sitting here under the spotlight. The fans are not to blame for anything. Right, I'm going to play devil's advocate. No, I wouldn't bring back Ange. I'm going to play. The fans are not to blame for anything. Right, so they're not to blame for the fines for letting off pyro in European games. They're not to blame for stopping the game for 15 minutes at Hampden and getting 500 tickets reduction for letting off pyro at Hampden. Come on, you cannot say that the fans are not to blame for anything. That is one of the most ridiculous comments. Even I could never say that. Football is life has lost the plot completely. But Norman reckons that the treble's still on, so do I. David says, when or if Rodgers did leave, the whole board took someone in, the supporters didn't like it, agree with, it would end up being a whole new level of scrutiny, the unrest at the club. It could happen. Of course it would, David, that's what I've already said. If Brendan Rodgers, say we lose the next 3 games, as a lot of people are I think a lot of Celtic fans are hoping for it. I think that a lot of fans want us to get beat so that Rodgers gets sacked, thinking that it will have some kind of repercussions for the board and board members will get sacked. They won't. The board will still be here. They'll change manager. Rodgers will get his payoff. He won't speak to the Scottish media. He'll disappear away over to Mallorca to live his life in the sun for the next 6-12 months. Celtic will then bring in a mediocre manager who's going to get questioned straight away. What do you think about the fans' protests? Oh, fucking, what do you mean fans protest? Nobody told me about that shit. What do you mean they're protesting? I'm just in the fucking door. Pyro's banned, so it's technically a footballing crime. Yes, it is. But anyway, right, that is me done and dusted for this evening. Thank you to everyone who has joined the chat this evening. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's half midnight back in 9 Celtic Park time. It's now 10 o'clock here. It's 8, just the back of 9 now, Celtic Park, isn't it? It's the back of 10 here. Anyway, I shall see you in the morning where we need to start ramping up and talking some positivity about Celtic heading into the game at Celtic Park on Thursday night against Sturm Graz. A game that Celtic really need to win if they have any aspirations in finishing in the top 24 of the Europa. A lot of fans are saying, fuck it, just never mind the Europa. We've got enough issues on our hands without trying to be successful in Europe. Could you imagine Celtic fans not wanting to be successful in Europe? On that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening. Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.